2016, it was noted publicly that 2 astronomers had discovered an unknown planet in our solar system. They colloquially termed it Planet X. Although previously it may have been known for the people who have been hunting it and have talked about it and have read of its possible existence from biblical terms as nibiru or wormwood or Planet X. One must wonder if this planet exists, which it appears that it does, although it hasn't been officially calculated with its distance and its size and its pathway yet. But one must wonder then what other likely effects that it must have on the rest of the solar system, including especially Earth and our other planets, the way it affects the humans, the life forms, the energy flows, the gravitational pull, among all of those pondering questions. I am going to read to you the words from a very good astrologer by the name of Boudreaux. He has done some philosophical work on the understanding of how Planet X might affect us at the astrological level. My belief is that every piece of movement or object or celestial object that passes through our solar system, especially close to Earth at any time, such as the asteroids, comets, smaller planetoids that we are finding all of the time, all of these bodies have an effect on us one way or another, and we have yet to understand fully which each planet or planetoid or celestial object, which each one will affect and alter us and our lives and the way we live on this planet. But here are the words from Carl, and I will read them to you now. This is his perspective and his thoughts on the newly discovered planet. He focuses on the political dimension of the celestial bodies that transit the zones. The fiefdoms, kingdoms, principalities, empires, and so on of the ancient world lacked cohesion, stability, and security. Boundaries were porous and constantly shifting. Loyalties were fleeting. Populations migrated often and en masse. Invasions, devastating raids by marauding nomads, and military incursions were common. Even the largest empires were torn by the tensions between the hostile tribes, competing families, warring barons, rival city-states, and opposing kingdoms of which they were made up. Internally, the authority of the rulers was frequently challenged by rivals for power. Early kingdoms and empires were crumbly, unsafe, and unstable affairs, ruled often brutally by autocrats with few, if any, limitations on their actions. Viewed in strictly astrological terms, leaders of those times looked to Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn archetypes to provide order and structure in their domains. Those living in these times certainly aspired to secure boundaries, political and economic stability, and their version of social justice. In doing so, they pushed the organising potential of the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn to their limits. It just didn't seem possible to achieve stability and justice with the archetypal resources provided by these planets and the archetypal principles they represented. We struggled for many centuries with the limitations of the political organisational principles we had at our disposal. In the 18th century, astronomers began discovering an increasing number of bodies in the outer solar system, most notably, perhaps, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. From an astrological perspective, the new celestial bodies represented 3 additional archetypal principles and thus provided additional organisational resources. Uranus inspired those virtues we now commonly associate with nationhood and shared national identity: liberty, equality and fraternity. Neptune supported cohesive and captivating belief systems that allowed for national identity and purpose of nationality. Pluto made it possible for a nation to impose its collective will inwardly and outwardly. These new organisational principles were reinforced by new psychological forces. New desires and expectations stirred in human consciousness. It seemed very much as if a petal in one or more of our chakras had been stimulated or awakened, activating new forces in the human psyche and, by extension, collective consciousness and human society. Uranus does have a complex effect on the motivational and nervous systems, pushing us to higher levels of thought and perception. The same general kind of thing is true of Pluto and Neptune. Astronomers also discovered large asteroids or planetoids like Sirius, Vesta, and on up to Chiron, and other more recently discovered bodies. These smaller bodies also seemed associated with newly awakened potentials in human nature. The large asteroids like Ceres and Charikelo and others called forth fine-grained moral and ethical sensibilities. These sensitivities gave rise to moral and ethical codes. These codes tempered the organising power of Uranus, Neptune and Pluto to hearts and mind, reducing social tensions. In any case, all of these new archetypal forces became continuing and increasingly pervasive factors in our history. They slowly but surely transformed, reordered and humanized societies all over the world. The scenario was complex and varied and played out differently in different places throughout the world, but the outcomes were recognisably similar in most cases. Today, despite wide variations, it does indeed appear that most of the nations in the world were following a similar archetypal template. Surely these bodies and the archetypal principles they represent were always already present in the zodiac. We recognise their traces in the institutions throughout and the literature of ancient peoples. However, they emerged as predominant forces after their official discovery. Like the people of the 18th century, we of the 21st century are bumping hard against the limits of archetypal organisational resources available to us. We too envision something more than we have so far been able to achieve. We want to move beyond the jostling, discordant collection of nations that we now are, to a truly integrated, coordinated, integral, harmonious global civilization. On Tuesday, January the 2nd, 2016, 2 astronomers announced the discovery of a large planet beyond Pluto. Reasoning by analogy, we might reasonably expect that a new archetypal principle is in the process of emerging in our collective consciousness. This principle should provide the ideas, the sensibilities, and the motivation to take global civilization to the next level. New petals will be stimulated in our chakras. New sensibilities and new motives and impulses will stir in the human psyche. New forces will swirl in collective consciousness full of potential. So, with that in mind, what might this new archetypal principle be? Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. Pluto the higher octave of Mars. So extrapolating from this, we can reasonably expect planet 9 to be the higher octave of Jupiter. Jupiter is a source of higher meaning and drives us towards a richer and more fulfilling life. Jupiter enhances generosity, tolerance, sympathy, and compassion. It generally inspires us to greater and more benevolent efforts on behalf of those around us. Jupiter also endows us with boundless and infectious optimism, with faith in ourselves, in others, in the future, and in the universe. It engenders an optimism that looks beyond present obstacles and hardships. Jupiter makes us believe in the possibility of achieving an earthly utopia. This new planet should make the higher octave of the Jupiter archetype, with all its positives, a likely active principle in the forefront of world affairs. The emergence of these archetypal forces are always foreshadowed. Precursor phenomena appear in the decades before the official announcement of their discovery. I believe the same thing is true of this new planet's discovery. We should look for it in the world around us. In decades past, when we conceived of global enterprises, we typically thought of arduous brick and mortar enterprises created in the face of daunting material, political and economic obstacles. The idea conjured up visions of elaborate factories constructed over lengthy periods of time at immense expense. They were always situated precariously in inhospitable environments and tangled in global political conflicts. In short, our conception of global enterprise was bound up with the limitations of the already known bodies, Sun through Pluto. However, in more recent decades, we have seen numerous examples of another kind of global enterprise. These, by contrast, all but spring into existence without effort, obstacle, or resistance, or at least none to compare to those associated with establishing a global energy company, for example. I have in mind organisations that seem to come out of nowhere, such as a garage, a basement, a workshop, a dorm room, and quickly develop into a pervasive global presence like Google, PayPal, Facebook, Amazon, and Netflix. There are also new global advocacy groups like Avaz. There is a lightness and spontaneity about the origins and functions of such organisations that is very new. But such enterprises aren't confined to internet companies. We might also point to renewable energy. Renewable energy products are spreading seamlessly, effortlessly, leapfrogging over national boundaries. And such, Carl thinks, is typical of projects related to the Jupiterian archetypal principle of Planet 9. Surely this new planet, like the others before it, will only take us so far, but like the others, it will open the way to still higher achievements for us all here on Earth as humans. To what kind of civilization will we aspire when Planet 9 has done its work? The next major astronomical body to be discovered, reasoning by analogy, would constitute a higher octave of Saturn. The Saturn we now know teaches the knowledge and discipline needed to take a more active part in collective life. That is, it makes us fit to well the energies of Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, and now Planet 9. Saturn marks the end of the lower archetypal octave and marks the threshold of a new, higher one. This suggests that a higher octave of Saturn will also mark the beginning of a new third archetypal octave. At this point, one can only speculate what kind or level of social and political organisation this third archetypal principle will make possible. And so there are a few of the potential thoughts for the astrology that will affect us all when we understand more of this planet and how it traverses its way through our solar system, our minds, our souls, and our being. Thanks for listening, guys. Leave any of your thoughts and ideas on how you think this planet is going to affect us all, because there is nothing more certain than it certainly is going to. Ka kite anoa. Much aroha. Namaste.